Hey guys, Tony Rush here. This will probably be a pretty quick video today. Here's what's on my mind. One of the things that fascinates me about human beings is how we tend to sort of knee-jerk our way through life. We get an idea about something and we just sort of install it in our heads like software. And we tend to kind of operate our lives as though this software that we've installed is absolutely 100% perfect. And one of the areas that I find that this happens to be the case more often than anywhere else is around this issue of how your time is connected with your bank account. This whole thing of how much time we spend making money, how much time it's going to take to give ourselves a raise, things like that. And it's kind of popped up in some conversations lately, and I wanted to kind of give you my perspective on it because I had somebody today that asked me, they said, well, if I put in 3 or 4 hours a day in Empower Network, what kind of results will I get? Which we don't get paid for time. Employee-minded people get paid for time. Entrepreneurs get paid for results. The other thing, though, too, and this is part of that programming, my neighbor, this is part of that programming that I mentioned a moment ago. Stop and think about something. Like let's just take the 8-hour workday. Is that like the stupidest, most arbitrary thing you've ever seen? I mean, think about it. There's no way that it takes every single person in society exactly 8 hours to do whatever it is they do to make a living. I mean, think about that. And yet, if you look around, that's the expectation of normal life in society, right? If you're a paralegal, you have an 8-hour day. If you're an insurance agent, you have an 8-hour day. If you're working in the office at the FedEx place, you have an 8-hour day. It's just weird. Where does this come from? And it's an example of how human beings are sort of programmed at an early age to think a certain way. And one of the most empowering things that you can do is to question some of these old thought patterns that we have. So where did this thing come from, the 8-hour day? Well, if you think about it, it started when we were kids, right? You go to public school. You got to be in public school, about 7:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock, whatever, till 3:30, 4 o'clock. So from the time we were 5 years old, maybe 4 years old on daycare, preschool, from the time you're like 4 years old, you're sort of conditioned that at least 8 hours of the day is supposed to be spent doing something. So we spend 8 hours a day at school. Well, you graduate school, and okay, now we're doing college, or you go get a job. I didn't go to college, so you go get a job, and the expectation, once again, 8 hours. So it's kind of a funny thing, because when people realize that they don't have to stay stuck in that rat race of working 8 hours a day for somebody else, and they start making the shifts necessary to start working from home, making some money on the internet, getting rich. I love that phrase, by the way, getting rich, just because it makes everybody nervous. I love to just talk about getting rich. Everybody else talks about financial independence, which is kind of a wussy phrase, really. You want to be rich. That's what you want. I just like to mess with people sometimes by talking about, yeah, this is a way of getting rich. Anyway, that's a sidebar. Here's my point, though. When you do decide to get rich, when you do decide that you're going to sit in the driver's seat of your own income, and you're going to be the one in control of how the money flows in your life, one of the first realizations you have is you don't have to spend a lot of time. Like, I'll be honest with you, I work, and I'm going to give you an average, okay, because a lot of people are curious about this. I make about $2,000 to $3,000 a day right now at the time of this recording. If you're watching this in 2013, that number could be twice that. But I'm just right now, December 2012, if I look at the last 100 days in Empower Network, I've made like $230,000 or something. So I'm averaging over $2,000 every single day. Now, here's the thing. I'm only working an average of about 3 hours a day because I have little boys. I have a 6-year-old, I have a 14-year-old, and a 16-year-old. And so, as you can imagine, as a dad, I have to play a certain amount of Nintendo, right? These are important things. You've got to have some Super Mario Kart in your life. This is important stuff, when you've got kids in the house, right? So there's that. And then, you know, I'm married to the most beautiful girl on the planet. And if you'll ever see a picture of my wife, you will agree, oh my God, girl of my dreams, right? So I don't want to spend all my time grinding away. I've got to have lots of time to hang out with my bride. Plus, I like doing other stuff. I'm interested as a hobbyist. I enjoy magic and magician stuff, and I love reading, fiction and nonfiction. I'm also working on a book. So if you're watching this in 2013, perhaps you'll find my instant bestseller on Amazon. But here's my point. This business of making money should not take a third of your life. And this thing of, okay, now, oh, by the way, sleep, I'm not somebody that messes around about that. I am not scared to put my head on a pillow. So I'm getting about 8 hours. 8 hours is a pretty good number for me. So, you got 8 hours sleeping, and then you've got your playtime, the stuff that you want to do, your playtime. All my neighbors are coming home. Now, this is a good example. So take a look at we're talking about time. So it's 4:30 now, and all my neighbors are moving around. Everybody's coming home from work, where they've been, where? For how long? Work. For 8 hours. They all left at like 7 o'clock this morning, or whatever. And so now they're coming home, 4:30, 5 o'clock. So for the next hour, there's not a lot of houses in my neighborhood. Fairly small little area here. But, yeah, everybody's coming home, because everybody here works. I'm like the only guy in the neighborhood who just gets to hang out all day, which is just awesome. Okay, so here's my point. If you want to get rich, you've got to disconnect this idea that your bank account has anything to do with time, because it doesn't. Now, it takes time. You know, this, like Empower Network, this is not something you can just, sit around and have a positive mental attitude and then money's going to just fall out of the sky. You do actually have to show up and do something. But the showing up and doing something is very simple. And I literally started for 45 minutes a day. In 45 minutes a day, when I first got started, I was completely done. Now, I'm talking about income-producing activity, too. I'm not talking about, like, I might go to a conference call and listen to David Wood or David Sharp train on something. Or I might do an hour training for my team or for the company. So that's non-income producing time. That's time that I'm investing in other people's success and in learning things new for myself. But in actual income producing activity, you got to get rid of this idea that having a great income necessarily means working your ass off, because it doesn't. It doesn't mean that you have to work hard, nor does it mean you have to work long. So, I have a lot of people that get started on our team here in the Empower Network, and they say, Tony, I'm working a full-time job. Is this something I can do if I put in a couple hours a day? And my response is absolutely. I mean, because actually once you get this thing up and running and you get some flow happening, you can probably still keep a 2-hour a day work schedule and just quit your job. And picture that, right? You walk into the boss's office and you say, you know what, boss, I can't afford to work here anymore. It's killing me. I figure it's costing me at least $2,000 a day to come in here and work for you. So I got to go. I can't keep trading 8 hours of my life. There's a certain amount of Nintendo that has to be played, right, or whatever. So here's the point. This 8-hour workday is nonsense. It's completely made up. There's no way it takes everybody 8 hours on the planet to get done what they need to get done. And the truth is, as someone who used to work at a job, and low-paying, crappy jobs at that, the truth is, you probably only have about 2 or 3 really highly focused hours in your workday. Like if you look back at the days that you spend with your employer working 8 hours a day, if you were to take all the high productivity stuff and wad it up, he may be paying you for 8 hours, but you really were only operating at the maximum productivity for probably anywhere from 30 minutes to 2.5 hours. I mean, nobody operates at 100% efficiency for 8 hours a day. So why hang out doing something where you don't want to be for a whole 8 hours when you can make way more money doing something that's fun and simple and exciting for a couple hours a day? So I want to encourage you to think about this. Don't take my word for it. Just think about it. Look around at people that are making tons and tons of money. Now, by the way, if you love what you do, there's nothing wrong with working 8 hours a day. You know, I just have a lot of other stuff that I enjoy doing too, and I don't like making, chasing money the most important or the biggest part of my day. But if I was single, or if I didn't have children, perhaps I might work more because I love what I do. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with working long hours, but there's something wrong with working long hours and not getting paid for it. See, like people like to point to Bill Gates and they say, well, Bill Gates is working 10 hours a day. Yeah, well, Bill Gates is a freaking millionaire, a billionaire. I mean, the guy's making like $1,000 a second. Okay? I'm talking about ordinary people that are making $35,000 a year and they're having to spend 40 hours a week to do it. And if you put a gun to their head, you put a gun to their head and say, give me $1,000 right now, they don't have it. These are people that have worked hard all their life from the time they were 16 years old. And 40% of the people in America don't have $500 in their savings account right now. That's not cool. That's not acceptable. It may be common, but it's not normal. So what I want to encourage you to do is let go of this needless connection that you may have, this old programming that says that you're supposed to show up for 8 hours to do anything to make money. Because if you do what we'll show you how to do in Empower Network, you can literally make more money in a month than the average American makes in a year, and you can do it in about 20% of the time. So if that's appealing to you and you'd like to find out more, go over to www.theperfectbusinessforyou.com. Get some information on Empower Network. If you're already on my list, if you're getting this video because you're already on my list, you can just jump in, get started with us. JoinTonyRush.com. Whatever. And maybe you're watching this video because somebody else in the company forwarded it to you. Get started with them. But for whatever you do something that's leveraged. Do something that will allow you to break the connection between the clock and your bank account, because that don't work. That don't work. But what does work is leverage. What does work is automation. And what does work is working in an opportunity where you make 100% commissions just by following a really simple system for about an hour, 90 minutes a day tops. So I hope that's of value to you. Think about how you're spending your time, and we'll talk to you soon.